any one of those South Sea Islands, and my language, the language that I speak, doesn't punish the truth, if the language does not punish the truth, then there is no words to lie with, because you never need to lie. And if you don't need to lie, the words that you speak will be the truth, factual. As a result, your operating system is constantly rewarded for telling the truth and truth. If, however, you punish the child for telling the truth, spilling milk, damaging the house, you now create an operating system that has learnt that if you tell the truth, it's punishable. The child will now begin to find words that create covertness. It will learn to lie, and lie it will, because the rewards of telling the truth is punishment and pain. The rewards for telling the lie is no pain and no punishment. The child is forced to never speak the facts, speak the truth, and it will create its own babble, flibbing. So if I was raised in an island, say Britain, Hawaii, and the race of people that lived there do not punish people, their children, for telling the truth, but rather reward them for it, you now got an operating system, the language, the words, that has no corruption, no need for lies, no need for 101 billion personalities, not characters. Millions of people running around, cannibalizing on each other, which creates a perfect breeding ground for me to come in as a judge, controller, fictional money, religion, whatever you call it, and live off that corruption. And if I was a conquering force that understood the benefits of that corruption, and I entered that island that rewarded children for telling the truth and the wider society, I would have to change the language. And the first thing that I do is I will force you to speak the language of Babble. And if you ever told the truth, I will punish you. And if you don't do what I say, I will chop your head off, as they did in Hawaii, as they did in Ireland, as they did in this land that you sit on at the moment. The people that invaded these places, they are not of a race, they are of a particular psychological type, a particular species of man and woman. They give you the illusion they belong to a race. They don't. They are a species of man and woman that live off that corruption. So, if you spoke your language that did not speak in Babble, that spoke factual in the here and now jurisdiction, the first rule would be to remove that language. And if you don't speak my language in Babble, I'll behead you. As they did in Ireland, as they did in Hawaii, and all these other places that they visited, the first thing they did was corrupt the language. And they usually did that with their religions, forced it on them. There's a particular, first of all, do you understand the profound nature of the statement that I have just now made? You must corrupt the language. That's the first thing they do when they go in, is that they will corrupt the language. They will tell you to speak in adverb scenario, a dangling participle verb in your head where there is no closure. You're running on vile poetry. Your mind is constantly thinking in vile poetry, vulgar poetry. And they keep you in that state of fear constantly. When you do that, you create alternative personalities, predatory-like personalities, parasite personalities, passive aggressive type of personalities, which is an oxymoron, by the way, so I'll put some words into it. A personality that will write pen letters, poison pen letters, and so on and so forth. That's the language we used to use. I don't know what they call it now. They call it cyberbullying, I believe. But this is the activity of the passive aggressives. It creates all these subspecies of men and women, and the judges just live off of it. The attorneys, the rulers of your world, they just live off of it, and they milk you for everything. They'll give you the belief there is a huge divide between this region and that region. There is no divide. Because if me and you come together, we have formed contract, and two people make contract. And if we agree upon that is what it is, there is no middleman. There is no king, no queen. You must corrupt the kernel of the operating system for this corruption to take hold. A child, what does a child mean? It means it's a property of a corporation. There have been many, many cases where a corporation, whether that would be a company, will take over a child. Yeah, a very famous case was twins. The advertising agency used those twins and then just claimed that twins as their own. And the parents couldn't get it back. They could not get it back. And after 25 years, they managed to get the twins back, but under terms and conditions. How does this happen? How does this happen? It's because you guys have no law, you have no codes, and you don't have access to those avenues and venues. Okay? When I started off the studying of the law and so on and so forth, I decided to hold seminars for Jim Humble to bring his technology into Britain. And I knew the moment I did that, the newspapers, the pharmaceutical industry, which are exceptionally vile, they have a history, and their history, this is the pharmaceutical industry, their history is in the Dark Ages, when they burnt all the witch doctors and the witches and so on and so forth. They weren't witches, they weren't doctors, they were healers. And they took over their industry. Something that they do to this day is just that you don't know it. Because in those days it was acceptable priming to say these people were witches and possessed of demons and so on and so forth, because they always was healthy in times of hardship and so on and so forth, because they knew how to look after themselves. So the nation was primed to believe that they were witches and so on and so forth. Yeah, and very easy to burn. It is incredibly easy to convert anybody into believing anything. That is why the stratification of beliefs in your world is so absurd that human beings, which means monster, will go to any lengths to practice their beliefs and any length to protect those beliefs. You just name one and you'll find a particular point in history not so far away where that's what they've practiced. It doesn't matter what it is, however absurd it is, it's happened already. That's the length people will go to protect their beliefs. Okay? There is a reason why for that. Believe it or not, me and you are speaking a language known as Babble. Okay? And the only reason why you're able to understand me in a fairly cognizant way is because your subconscious is going in and missing and placing all the missing words so it can reconstruct everything that I'm saying and give it to you an accuracy of around about 95%. I am actually speaking to you as I am speaking to you in a language known as Babble, and it is called Babble. Okay? The processes that allows that to happen, the mental processes that allows that to happen is part of the subconscious mind. And that's what I'll be speaking to you to. My personal covenant with you guys is that 5 o'clock when you leave, not one of you here will ever see the world again as it is. That I promise you. That's my covenant with you. What your covenant with me is, all depends upon you, and I'll leave it to you. But that is what I say I'm going to do. By the time it finishes today, every single one of you will have enough information to be able to pull down any judge on this planet. It doesn't matter if it's a low-ranking judge or a high-ranking judge. You will be able to keep him at check at your worst case scenario and dismiss him in the best case scenario, or as a desired scenario, hold him to become a duty-bound, honor-bound fiduciary. Okay? So, with the videos, I'm going to show you the inner workings of the cell. Inner workings of the cell. Something that we know people saw into when they looked down the barrel of a Royal Rife microscope. They were able to pierce the cell membrane and move into intercellular material where they got a glimpse of the world inside of a cell, as complex as anything else. Why do I need to do that? Because I need to reach into those things which you already know exist. Okay? And then I'm going to take you out into the terrestrial world, or by the video, and show you the complexity of your world that you tread upon, and then take you out into interstellar material. And then I'll bring it to a stop, and I'll introduce you to the subject matter today, which is the law. How law works, why it doesn't work, why some people can access it and some people can't. I will teach you how to move in the corridors of kings and queens. I will teach you how to use the same conduits, and they're called conduits, that royalties use, the most vile and disgusting people on this planet use, as well as some of the subspecies that exist on your planet. And I'll introduce you to the world of the species of man and women. You may think of it as psychological type, but like most things, like looking down a barrel of a microscope that only shows you dead material, you have yet to encounter the complexity of the man and women, as known as the species of men and women that exist in your world. Most of us are running around in a world of assumptions and presumptions. And that's where the courts always triumphs over you. Because while you are thinking in presumption and assumptions, they give you the assumption, the presumptions, and they just remove it or cancel it out. And hence you take no jurisdiction in a courtroom whatsoever. The mechanism for that is very well known to me. And that's a process that the subconscious does. It's called stand down, and they get your subconscious to stand down. They do it out of pure ignorance. They don't know the workings of it, but they've been trained to use certain words, like sit down. Now sit down. There's no way that you can tell a man or a woman to sit down. You talk to me like that, I'll tear you to pieces. It don't matter where I am. And if I'm in a courtroom, it's almost certain I'll triumph. Because a courtroom is a level playing field. It's a level playing field. Nobody ever goes into a courtroom where the tennis player is sitting 10 foot up there and the other guy is 10 foot below subterranean. That's not a level playing field. They are lying to you from the moment that you get a summons or a letter all the way into the courts where they do what's known as the reaping. And it's called the reaping. And the reason why they reap is because they need to add value to the fiat money that you run around in. And the only way that they can add value to that is to give you some of that empty fiat money, and you convert that into what is known as sweat equity. You've now given it gold, because the only thing that is worth anything is that which you earn by your own efforts, and they don't do anything for their efforts. That's why they pillage, rape, murder, and so on and so forth. The conversion process, for that conversion process to take place, most of you would understand as the banking system and so on and so forth. How they get it off of you is what most people do not understand. And that is what I'm here also to give you. The mechanism takes place in the courts. These courts have been in existence for thousands of years, where they give you the fiat money, and when you convert that into sweat equity, they take it away from you, either stealth or direct or indirect. Okay, they might do it by VAT, they may do it by income tax, but they will take it off you. Anything up to 90% will be taken off you. A few percentage of it you get to keep. But also, if you are of a particular demographic, demographic comes from the word diabolos, the grass of demons. If you make enough of it, they will make sure that your children never inherit your wealth. Because if your children inherit your wealth, they will not be able to get the child to work. So they'll strip it from you. The mechanism to do that is very well known. You guys all know it. It's called inflation deflation. Pumping up the economy and then removing the fiat currency where the money circulation is poor. That's one of the mechanisms. The courtrooms are used as a conduit to remove what's known as commercial energy out of you and pump it into those places where they don't have commercial energy, whether that be the Regis, which is the Queen, or the Vatican, or the IMF family.